there, how are you today? So we're going to talk today about the topic of labels, and I'm hoping it will give you a different perspective on what labels we construct as humans, what that does to us, but also why it has to happen as well. So remember, labels are constructs, but they also are serving a purpose. I'm hoping to open up your mind with respect to this so that you can actually take this out in your day-to-day journey and actually do some discovery as well as self-discovery on labels and how they're used and how you interpret them and use them in your day-to-day. In other words, labeling people and just labeling in general what that spiritually is significant for and what it also means for us as humans in our growing consciousness. So hopefully you'll take something away today, one little nugget that will assist you on your journey forward. That's why I'm here, to offer you all of what I receive, but then for you to take what resonates, and like I always say, toss the rest aside. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Carolyn Zaiser. I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these channeled messages so that you can be supported along your ascension and awakening and life journey. So thank you so much for joining me today. Down below in the description box, if you want more free content, you're going to get poetic messages from the light keepers that I have channeled over time, supporting you in the week coming up. So when you go below in the description box, you click on the link, you're going to get a free video on how to create flow in your body for health and wellness. Additionally, what it really does is takes you to my email list so that you can get a supportive message every week on the Friday before the week coming up. It's a poem from the light keepers along with some commentary that I make on each one of them. So hopefully you will join me there for more free content. You can also join my Facebook page, Purple Rain Healing, for more poetic messages to assist you along your journey. Okay, so anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Before we launch into this really, what I'll say is probably going to be kind of a quick video, I just hope that you're coming out of Lionsgate. What I will say is that what I'm noticing, and this is personally, is that these huge energies that came in for the summer and then really allowed us to be uplifted, start to be uplifted at Lionsgate. Because remember, it's not just a point in time. It reaches its, I'll just say its significant point on Lionsgate, that energy, but we're still with it, but we're being uplifted by it. What I've noticed is so fascinating, because I've had a really difficult summer, energetically speaking, but what I've noticed for myself is that all of a sudden now, it's like somebody took a big deep breath in the cosmos. It's like, okay, and now we're kind of gently incorporating those energies, integrating those energies now. And again, what they have shown me is like we're on a cloud and we're being uplifted. Now, what I will say is sometimes we drop out of that cloud because remember, it's a staged approach to consciousness growth as well as vibrational growth, right? So we continue to learn as we go. So there's these phases that we go through, but at the same time we're always uplifted. Does that make sense? But within that upliftment we have this. We still have the things we're learning from. We still have the struggles, but we still have the beautiful times. But things start to become more manageable as we move forward in this journey. And what I'm receiving right now is that we're in kind of this phase of integration again with these new energies, this upliftment, riding on the cloud, feeling a gentler approach to things. We will have an August and September that is highly active energetically, That means manifestations in the collective as well as Earth. We're already seeing a lot of Earth activities. That's kind of just a known fact, but we are going to see a lot of this churning energy, okay? Or they're just showing me two engines, August and September, churning. Oh, they said like making butter. I don't know what that is. Like churning butter. Oh, churning butter. Okay, because that takes a while. If you're using an old churn, which I don't think anybody does that anymore, the churning of butter, like churning. And this is what we're doing in August and September. We're going to see some manifestations out of that in the collective, actually. That might be rocky. I'll just say, we know that. Again, we know that this, as we go through this awakening journey, we start to really understand that this is the continued momentum will also spit up the things that we need to recognize that no longer serve us, whether it be individually or collectively. So we're going to see a lot of that in August and September. Anyway, let's get to our topic today, because it's kind of brief, like I said. So here's what I want you to get out of this, or think about as I'm actually talking. So when we're talking about labels, we're talking about anything that divides us into two or more, okay? And it's everywhere, all right? And it's growing. It's growing. But it's actually part of the spiritual awakening journey. It's part of the ascension journey. And it may not sound like it. It may sound counter to it. It may seem like, oh, we're just creating duality and we're just creating division, which, yes, we sure are. We can create division. But what the labels are for is, and I'll give you some examples of labels if you're not understanding what I'm talking about, because they are constructs. But what I am receiving very strongly is before we, I'll just say, expand out into the full consciousness that we can be as the oneness of who we are, we have to understand who we can be, which is why all these divisions are happening right now. We have to go there before we can come back in to become the oneness. Okay, so as we create more labels, it divides us, but it also identifies, honestly, the various ways of who and what we can be. Okay, so labels are, some of the examples are political, I'm reading my notes, religious, gender, sexual orientation, generational, millennials, Gen X, boomers, all that, work, blue collar, white collar, income level, class, 1%, right, middle class, lower class, whatever, countries, nationalities, race, ethnicity. Those are just a few. So it's like, I am this, I am that, I am this. And then when you start doing all the I ams, that's your box you put yourself in. That's how you identify. However, this has to happen first, where we go into this phase of all these labels, and there's so many more created now, right? Think about it. And I'm going to give you an exercise at the end here that you can do to kind of really start, I'll just say, recognizing this, seeing it, really kind of seeing it for what it is. But anyway, it's really about the other, right? So it's like, oh, they're that. Oh, they're that. Well, then what we end up doing is we put people in a box and we assume they're only that, and that everybody in that box is all the same, right? And we know that's not true. Oh, deep down, we know that's not true, but we do that. So then what we do is we narrowly define ourselves, right? Because we've boxed ourselves in with the gazillions of labels that we've labeled ourselves, all right? Conservative, liberal, it just goes on and on, right? I mean, it goes on and on. I've only addressed a few of the biggies, right? You could probably add to that in the comments section all the labels, because it's really good to understand that this has to happen first. Okay, remember, it's the upside down. Things that look like they aren't meant to be are actually meant to be, to bring us into this awareness of, whoa, wait a minute, we don't want that. I know that my neighbor, just because he or she is of this label, but I know them differently. I also know other parts of them, right? And so again, as we label, what we do is we constrict, and we create division, and we create the other, and we also create a lot of fear. But again, I'm going back to what they've told me before I started to do this video and had the idea come to me, is that this all has to be pulled out and pulled apart. This all has to happen. All these labels have to happen. All this disparateness of who we can be, until we start to recognize what I will just say is the diversity of who we are, but that it's not the only thing that defines us, because guess what does define us? I am, without any labels. So before we come back into the understanding of just that oneness, we have to expand out, and I don't mean consciously expand out. This is kind of counter to talking about expanding consciousness, but what they're showing me is all these labels, before we realize, wait a minute, this is all us. This is all us. I'm a part of that, I'm a part of this, I'm a part of that, I'm a part of that. I am, in all our ways that we can be. And yes, maybe some of them don't feel favorable to you. But again, this is also the duality, or it's the showing the opposites, right? So that we can then, and what I also got was so that all possibilities can be recognized. Okay, they just said that to me. All possibilities can be recognized. Now, we're not even there yet, right? Where all possibilities can be recognized. But that's why labels are happening. It's also, remember, this is the upside down. So what I'm saying is what looks like something negative on the outside that divides us, and yes, it does and can, or creates the other, is actually helping us see how much and full we can be until we realize that labeling, creating more constructs, actually will then do the opposite, where we will start to recognize all and accept each other for who we are. So we can use that as a really good example. And again, I'm just going to say, I'm going to try to get all my words right here, but so pardon me if I don't, but needless to say, let's just use sexual orientation. In the last, I'm going to say 10 years, 15 years, all the labels, right? And all the very specific definitions of our sexual orientation, gender, all of that is now out in front of us that we never 15 years ago were talking about, right? We were not talking about that. But it's all purposeful to show us how much there is within us, who we all can be, and to be recognized, okay? There has to be that identification and recognition until we realize we don't need that any longer. We don't need the labels any longer because we are recognized now. I hope this is making some degree of sense. It's this, all these constructs, all these labels created to actually divide us, when in reality what it's doing is actually helping us to become the oneness and help us understand that, wait a minute, I am. It's not I am this, I am that, I am this. That's constrictive, okay? That's constrictive, that boxes you in. We're so much more than that, but we have to see all the possibilities, or the possibilities, all right? Because there is no box in what I am is. All right? So what I would say to you is, hopefully this hasn't been too confusing, but they really wanted me to talk about this today because right now labels are in our face. All right? What I would ask you to do as an exercise, if you want, really kind of get, do some of our real deep digging, is sit down and write down with pen and paper what your labels are. I am this, I am that, or what have they traditionally been? I am this, I am that, I am. Okay? Write them all down and just look at them. I think you're going to be amazed. Okay? And be honest with yourself. Or even ones that you used to label yourself as. And as we progress through, what happens is our labels start to drop. Like, I'll give you an example. Religion's probably a good one. I grew up Protestant Congregationalist, and I was like, I'm a Congregationalist. I'm Protestant, right? Like, now it's like, no, I have no label. I am spiritual, all right? Now that's also kind of a label, I suppose, but that's the best way to describe the wholeness of it all, right? Where I see that in each faith, there are some nuggets, right? There's some truths. There's some things I like and love. And then the idea of it just being that fullness of what I create for myself, right? The individual creating that out of all that we have seen and learned from the labels, right? So what I would say to you is, this is a really great exercise, is to write down that list of what you consider to be your labels. And then a really fun thing to do. Well, and then you can cross-check that as you move through your journey. Like, really, because honestly, they start to break down on their own. And you can actually do the work, too, to break some of those down. And I think a lot of that has to do with stepping away from the detailed involvement in what I'll just say, some of the voices that are out there with respect to labels in general. Because we can, I'm not saying that's not meant to happen, because it is meant to happen. It's meant to happen spiritually, but the point is we start moving away from that when we go through our spiritual journey. Our labels start to break down, and we start becoming the I am, all right? And then the more the collective, part of the collective. So the other thing to do is when you go out in public, when you go out, when you're watching, I don't know, anything on social media, when you're watching, and you're just living your life, it's a fun little exercise to see how many labels you see out there in a day. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So when we become more consciously aware of these kinds of things, we can more readily start recognizing the labels in ourselves, and also start really taking a look at the labels that have defined us and seeing where they're starting to break down. Because once again, I go back to what they told me is this has to happen first. All these multiple labels that are out there, growing labels, to be recognized as part of who we can be and we are. And remember, it's not just all the bright stuff. It's the duality of it that has to be recognized too. The I'll just say lower energies, higher energies, and the labels that are behind those too, all right? Because remember, we are the I am presence. We are I am. We are all of this to one degree or another. And this has to happen before we shed the labels and we become the oneness of who we are individually and then who we are collectively, as the understanding that we are all I am. So, I hope you've enjoyed this today. You can check out all my services on purplerainhealing.com, where I offer channeled messages, one-on-one mentoring for spiritual awakening and your life journey, where we work diligently to assist you over time with channeled messages, practical advice to assist you on your awakening journey, and help you understand through channeled information, past, including past lives, present situations you're going through, and future potentials. I also offer distance energy healing, where I do an analysis ahead of your energy healing session to help you understand where those energetic imbalances are and what emotions are behind it that we may have locked into our body that are causing us physical and emotional situations. And then we start to work on that through the energy healing process. I think you'll love this analysis process. This is part of something new that I'm doing, but it's just included in my distance energy healing package. So check it out, because I offer an audio recording of all of the analysis, and then of course the session where you get to just sit in the 30 minutes of the energy healing, and then we move on from there as you wish. So anyway, needless to say, I would love to work with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Reach out to purplerainhealing.com. All right, everybody, I will see you in the next video, and I hope you are doing well. Thank you.